Good afternoon and welcome once again to the National Urban League's Job Network Digital Career Success Series. My name is Jody Brockington and I'm today's host of a fabulous session on when networking is not working and when your network does not work for you and you are working harder. Networking was one of my favorite topics in the fact that it is so vital to your career and your success that today's society, everything has turned online, and trying to navigate not only what's going on online but live for your career is really still the game changer. Who you know and what you know must eventually connect. I am bringing you one of my favorite FOJs, my friends of Jody, Ivo Filbert, who is a master networker like myself, connects thousands of people internationally, nationally, and locally, and has worked across all the sectors like myself. So I wanted to bring you someone who has really been able to leverage networking in his own career to be able to share some of those examples and also be able to show when he's also not been so successful at it and also has seen when it has not worked for some of his own clients, some of the students and young professionals that he works with, as well as maybe some of his own peers. As you saw from his bio, he has worked in nonprofits, for-profits, for himself, in restaurants, in entertainment, hospitality, you name it, he has done it. So please get those questions ready, and I'd like to turn it over to the infamous Ivo E. Filbert.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Jody. I'm going to have to pay you some more to be my PR agent.
I will take it.
It is indeed my pleasure to be here to talk about something that I think is so vital to our success. And I want to start by sharing with you a story around the last two opportunities that I got, certainly as Chief Program Officer for the Jackie Robinson Foundation. It was a phone call that I got from the CEO asking me to come to the organization. But when I think about how that came to be was the fact that I supported the foundation over the last 10 years as a facilitator at their conferences. So part of my network was given back to the organization, and they felt that I was capable and the person they wanted to come into this role. My job before that was a senior executive who mentored me that indicated to the CEO of Inroads that they should bring me back to the organization. So networking is key and critical if you do it the right way. And I share those stories because oftentimes many people network because they're trying to get something, and sometimes you have to network and just give, and it'll come back to you tenfold. So we're going to spend the time today talking about what is networking, how to network. I'm going to give you some tips on networking. I want to encourage you to ask as many questions as you need to. Send them in. We'll try to get to all of the questions. We will make the presentation available to you after the webinar, so no need to try to write everything down that's on the slides, but you'll get those afterwards. So let me first start by going to what is networking, and let me get this working here. Jody, do I have control? There we go. Okay, great. So when we talk about networking, and oftentimes people complicate what networking is. So you have discovering networks between people, the process of developing and activating relationships, but quite simply, it is connecting with people. You can connect with people in many, many different ways. So why is it important? Because it's critical for our individual and our collective successes. It helps us to acquire contacts, information, support, and even get advice. And if you look at networking from a job hunt perspective, 60 to 80% of jobs are gained through networking. So networking is a very, very powerful tool that really can, if it's done right, can really position you for great success. Now, people, again, when they talk about networking, we kind of complicate it a little too much. So really, there are various types of networks. We all have our casual networks. People we know just in general, we're passing, on the train, people in our neighborhoods, people we connect with. And then there are professional associations, there are knowledge groups, community organizations, service organizations. We have our social and business organizations like the Chambers of Commerce and so forth. and certainly our friends. So when we think of our networks, pretty much it's anyone we come in contact with. Anyone can be a resource. Anyone can be in your network. So I just want to make sure we sort of demystify some of the what is networking and so forth. Then, of course, we talk about the types of networks that are out there. So oftentimes, face-to-face networking, which is one of the most effective ways of connecting with people. We have networking events, we have business events, social and cultural events, seminars. So really the face-to-face is the most effective way to network. And we'll talk a little bit later on about how to do that and the kinds of things we need to be mindful of when we are meeting individuals face-to-face. But we know we live in the age of technology, and online and social networking is huge right now. So really we have Facebook, we have LinkedIn, we have Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, various blogs, and there are a number of other social media outlets out there. I want to caution us though, we have to make sure we take the time to determine which social media outlets should be used for what. So I know there are some people, especially the younger folks that I meet, they want to put everyone on their Facebook page. And we have to be discriminating about who we put where. So LinkedIn is pretty much more of the social media platform that's used for business. So I would make that my primary as I'm working from a business perspective to connect with people. My Facebook page and some of the others, Instagram, are more personal, more friendships, where there's a bit more latitude to what I post. But we'll talk about that a little later on about how to make sure that your social media footprint is telling the story about you and how people use that to learn more about you. So we'll get to that in a minute. Let's really talk about preparing to network. Because oftentimes people go out there not prepared. They think, I'm going to show up at an event or I'm going to go to the seminar and I'm going to network. Well, there's some things that we should be doing deliberately to be effective at networking. So part of that is defining our objective. So if we're going to a business social event, the question is, how many people do we want to walk away meeting that night? Do I want to walk away with 10 substantive cards of individuals that I want to follow up with? Or is it really just to develop a broader cursory connection to people and do specific follow-ups? Or is it they have a great keynote speaker that I've been trying to connect with, and I need to go there so I can really engage with that person to really move the needle forward? So going into any event, we should have some type of objective as to what we are walking away with. Now, one of the more critical things about preparing to network is having our elevator pitch prepared. Always being on cue when someone says, tell me about yourself, or give me a little more insight on who you are. And oftentimes the automatic response is, well, what do you want to know? Which is not the appropriate response. So really scripting out a 30-second commercial that you can recite, and you got to practice it. So when people say to you, hey, how are you? It's nice to meet you. Tell me about yourself. You can automatically go in and talk about some of the highlights of what you do, your career, who you are. So when they walk away from that interaction, they know a little bit more about you in that 30 seconds. So think of it as being on an elevator, you run into someone and you don't know who those individuals are. So a quick story, many, many years ago, we had a young man who was interning at a company, and he got on the elevator with a gentleman who was dressed in jeans and t-shirt, jeans and a t-shirt. And this guy just struck up a conversation with this intern on the elevator, and they had a great conversation. That student found out at the end of the day that the guy that he had the conversation with was actually the CEO of the company. So it's always good to be prepared with your elevator pitch so you can engage in a conversation no matter who that individual is. Okay. I want you to focus on what you want to achieve and how people can help you. Okay. So oftentimes people go to networking events and they meet folks and they go, well, can I come and have lunch with you, or can I meet with you? And oftentimes they haven't thought through, well, if I meet with this person who is, super busy, what will be my ask? What am I trying to get out of this? How do I want to connect with them? How can they connect me with other people? Or what can I offer them? And we have to think about it in that way. If you know who's going to be at the event, make a list of the individuals that you want to connect with, that contact list. I want to make sure I meet X, Y, and Z while I'm at this event. If I meet those 3 people, I have achieved my objective. You know, and look at it this way: it could be folks in your existing contact list, because sometimes we have to sort of re-engage individuals that we already know, or we're trying to find new contacts. So it's important that we identify the individuals that we're trying to connect with. Now, can we always do that? No, we can't, because sometimes we don't know who's going to be there. So what I tend to do when I go to lunches or I go to business events, if there's a journal, or if there's a list of attendees, I would scan that to see who's in the room to make sure that I try to connect with those individuals, and that's my priority. And all of the other folks become secondary because I'm focused on who I want to connect with. You know, think about how you're going to meet people. So oftentimes we're at receptions where there's food and there's cocktails, and I see people all the time. They get in a corner, they speak to the same person all night long, or they're busy, you know, having cocktails and eating food. And I always tell people the objective of going to a cocktail reception is not to eat. It is to connect. It is to meet people. So being mindful of that and making sure that you are connecting with individuals throughout the event. And then certainly, as I mentioned earlier, thinking about what can you offer your networking partner. It doesn't have to be an immediate offer, but think about what you bring to the table. And sometimes it's a matter of, oh, I know so-and-so, I can connect you. And we have to be willing to give in order to receive. So let me spend a little bit of time on the art of networking. I often get, Ivo, you do that so well. You're just a natural at it. And yes, it's a gift. I was born with the ability to, as I say, shake hands and kiss babies. But I always tell people it has to be genuine. You've got to want to engage with people. You've got to want to connect with individuals. So your interaction with them should be genuine. Now, there's some things we need to do as we're engaging, and that is eye contact, making sure we give the appropriate eye contact to show connectivity. Smiling. Oftentimes we forget to smile, right? So it's good to make sure we smile so people can see a little bit of who we are. And then certainly a firm handshake. And a firm handshake is so important because it says so much about who you are. So we are in 2016, and I still meet today, especially some of the young ladies that I meet who give a very limp handshake. And a limp handshake doesn't necessarily convey the confidence that someone may see in you. So I tell people to practice the handshake at all times, because your handshake conveys how confident you really are. So projecting that confidence, you know, are you standing erect? Are your shoulders up? You know, your back straight? Are you really about to engage with individuals? Oftentimes I'll do 3 or 4 events a night, and I tell a lot of my students, you know, I get to the door and I go into automatic pilot of get to the door, stand straight, shoulders up, head high, you know, energy intact, and now I go in and I do what I need to do, and then I leave the event and I can slump my shoulders just to kind of relax. So keep in mind you want to project confidence. The other thing I want people to do when they're networking is spend the time listening to individuals. So often I see people who are just trying to tell all about who they are, what they do, how they can do it in order to impress or to get the other person to connect with them. And they lose sight of just asking open-ended questions and listening to what that person has to say, listening to that person sharing their story. So get in the habit of listening, asking good open-ended questions, getting people to open up. And you want to find something that you have in common. It could be the movies. It could be horseback riding. It could be traveling. It could be dining out. It could be so many different things. It could be golf. Find something that you connect on, because people tend to engage when there is a connectivity that's going on. Okay? So I just want to really reiterate again, be genuine in your interactions, because we all can spot folks who are fake, or they're really sort of interacting just because they're trying to get something. So make sure that your interaction is genuine, you have good eye contact, you convey that confidence, you're actually listening and not spending all the time just talking about yourself. And all of those things are so important in the art of networking, because people will see right through you if you're not doing those things. Let me give some networking tips. Business cards, okay? Now, we're in the age of technology. Some people use business cards. They use their phones. Whichever means you use to connect with people, make sure it's simple, it's clean. I often coach small businesses and other individuals around their business cards. I will get all these business cards that are multicolored, that you can barely read them, the font is too small, or there's a black background with a gold imprint. And I tell people all the time, the majority of our networking is done in the evenings and at night. We're in dimly lit places. If you give me a business card that I cannot read, I am not connecting and making that mental connection to the card and the individual. So you want to have a clean business card. You want to have something that when they look at it, they can easily connect with you. The purpose of a business card is to present someone with your contact information. There are some people out there now using fancy business cards. They are much smaller. They're little squares. And I remind people, if you give me a very, very small, a quarter by a half-inch type of card that is supposed to stand out, the reality is it's so small, it may get lost in the shuffle, right? So there's a standard business card template. I would say stick to that if you have business cards. Make it clean. Make it easy for folks to identify your contact information. I would also recommend that the back of the card is clear with nothing on it. Why is that important? That gives you space to write notes to remember about that person. So when you do follow up, you can sort of refer to some of the things that you talked about. So you personalize that interaction. Folks who give me cards and there's a design in the back and a design in the front, and it's laminated, it's a little waxy, and I'm going, okay, I can't write anything to remember the conversation, or I promised to follow up on X. I can't write that because I can't write on the card. So think about those things when you're doing business cards. Keep them somewhere you can find them. Oftentimes people are digging in their bags, or I don't know where they are, and you're taking away from the interaction moment. You're taking away from the opportunity to dialogue. So make sure you have them handy, you know where they are. And if someone gives you their business card, many people will take the business card and put it away right away, stick it in their pocket. You want to make sure that if someone gives you their business card, you treat it with respect, right? So you kind of hold the business card out as you're engaging with them, because you may need to glance at it to remember their name. You may need to glance at it to remember what they do or what company they're with or what they represent. But you also want to just hold on to that card to show a sign of respect for them giving you their card, and you're treasuring their contact information. Okay. Again, we talked about making notes at the back of the cards. And if you have a website or an email address, please make sure they're professional names. I have seen all kinds of email names. Names like Kitty Cat Boo Boo is not going to work. Names like Big Daddy D is not going to work. So when you're networking, make sure that you have your professional email address on your card. Make sure if you have a website, it's a professional website. Because keep in mind, every interaction, someone is judging you based on how they interact and what you portray. And that determines how people are going to engage with you beyond that event. Don't wait until you need something to build relationships. How many times we've had people call us, and they only call us when they need something. So for example, I have a staff person who has worked for me for many years, and literally the only time I hear from this person is when they need me to be a job reference for them. Now, because of the kind of guy I am, I do the reference because she was a good employee, but that is the only time I ever hear from the staff person. And a year and a half can go by, and then I get a message. Can you be my reference? Do you want to write? And again, you're not working to build a relationship. Keep that in mind. Sometimes it's a simple hello. Sometimes it's, great, I saw an article on you. Sometimes it's, you got a recognition, you got an award, congratulations. So keep in mind you want to connect with people, not just when you need them. And sometimes it's just stopping by to say hello, a quick note, hope all is well. So So you want to maintain that connectivity. When people are networking, oftentimes they're networking in the wrong places. So it's a concept of you've got to fish where there's fish, right? So if you're trying to network, you're looking for a job, or you're trying to get customers, or you're trying to develop prospects, you need to go where they are or where they will likely be. Okay, so you want to make sure you are in the pool where the individuals that you're trying to connect with are located. So if you want to be in the music industry, you've got to sort of engage and hang out and spend time in the places where the people in the music industry are. If you want to be in modeling or acting, you've got to sort of hang out where those individuals are. If you want to be in corporate America, you've got to sort of be in the space where the recruiters are. So you want to identify where you should be. The other thing that people need to do and do better is asking for referrals. But keep in mind, people will refer you if they believe in your abilities, they trust in you, they believe in your confidence, and they recognize that you won't embarrass them. And they recognize that, you know, if they recommend you, that you are representing them. Their reputation is at stake. So you want to be careful about asking folks to refer you. And if people refer you, you want to make sure you always understand that you are also representing that person and their reputation. So keep that in mind. Many times I see people go to networking events, and it's about going around the room and collecting as many business cards as they can. That's a mistake. You want to make sure that you get more quality over quantity. So you want to make sure you connect with folks, really engage them in a conversation. You don't want to sort of hog their time the entire event, but you want to have enough of an opportunity to connect, get to know, find a point of connectivity, and promise to reconnect and or follow up beyond that. So again, it's more quality versus quantity. And certainly you want to always thank your networking partner. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you sharing with me. So you want to be very, very gracious and thank you around that, from that perspective. More networking tips. Let's talk about your online image. So the online image, many of us have social media stuff, our Facebook, our LinkedIn, our Twitter, our Instagram. We want to make sure that we have a clean electronic footprint. So Google yourself. Type your name in and see what comes up about you. See what people are saying about you. The whole point of networking is what are people saying about you when you're not in the room. Okay? So Google yourself. See what's coming up on your imagery. If you have inactive accounts, delete them. And update your active ones. Make sure the information isn't old information. Many employers, the first thing they will do is Google you or go to LinkedIn, see if you have a profile. They may go on Facebook. So if you don't have the proper restriction protocol on your personal stuff, they may get into that and see what's going on, see how you interact, see some of your views. We often talk about the red cup image. You know, are you standing at a bar every 5 minutes with a red cup in your hand? People make impressions of you based on what they see in your social media profile. So you've got to make sure that you remove any dirt that's out there in your social media footprint that may get in the way of you networking. Okay? So make sure you use your privacy settings. Who can really see your information? And keep in mind, once you put it out in cyberspace, even if you delete things, it is always out in cyberspace. So you've got to be very deliberate about what you put on social media accounts. Okay? And ask your contacts, anyone you're engaged with, to also keep it clean. I'll never forget, several years ago, I posted a picture, and one of my friends posted a very inappropriate comment on my page. And literally, I deleted it right away, and we had to have a conversation about the fact that what my page represents, and that my page is my image and my reputation. And if he wanted to continue to be connected to my page, he would have to manage and respect my image, respect my expectations. If not, I would remove him from my account. So don't be afraid to have those tough conversations with your friends. And I often tell people, if you have to have a personal and a business, then do that. And make sure your personal, if you're going to have some stuff that people should not be seeing, is named something else. So when they Google it, it's not coming up with your name. and you want to make sure that you protect your image. Okay. More networking tips. Following up. So when you go to networking events and you get cards and you've had a great conversation and we're going to follow up, please do. Email, that's the norm now. Thank you for your time. I enjoyed speaking with you. Always make sure you remind them of the conversation you had. I often tell people, I go to events and I get a lot of folks who are coming up to me who want to get my card, the whole 9 yards. And after a while, you don't remember everyone, unless I wrote a note in the back of the card. But I will remember our conversation. So I tell people, in the email, remind me how we met. Because if I've done an event where it's 500 people or 1,000 people, so 2 nights ago, for example, we had our Jackie Robinson Gala. I met a ton of people. It's like, how do I remember who I spoke to and what we spoke about? So I always tell people, just say, hi, it's Ivo Filbert. Remember we met at such and such. I want to thank you for your time. I really enjoyed our conversation about X. And then you're going, oh, that's right. That's the young man or the young lady that I spoke with. So now you're reinforcing that connectivity. Handwritten notes. Handwritten notes are that extra touch, and they work well. So even if you send an email and you want to send a handwritten note to some great individuals, it's going to work. So let me back up for a minute and share with you a networking success that occurred within the last week. So I went to the Rainbow Push Gala several nights ago. My boss was there as well. And Sheila Johnson, one of the founders of BET, and she now owns Salamander Resorts, and the billionaire and all that stuff, was there. Of course, my boss knows that they're friends. And I got there, and my boss introduced me, and she happened to step away. She's like, I need you to stay here with Ms. Johnson. Great, I'll stay there with Sheila. We got to talking, and she had agreed to speak at my conference that I just hosted this weekend because my boss asked her. And we got to talk, and she was excited about that. Well, that transpired into her inviting me to come the next day. She was given a keynote at the conference, to come the next day to listen to her. And I got to the Rainbow Push event because a friend of mine called that day and said, you need to be here tonight. So, of course, I was like, great, I'll be there. So he was thinking about me even when I was not there. And I got there, and I got to meet Ms. Johnson personally. I got to connect with her. She's now invited me to come down to her hotel in Virginia, which I'm looking forward to. So it's just about networking. You never know how that's going to play out. So certainly, she's going to get our standard thank you for participating, yada, 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 letter, but then I'm going to send her a personal handwritten note thanking her from me about helping to make our conference such a success. So you want to use the tools that are at your disposal to maintain your connectivity, to maintain your network. A phone call. Once you send the written follow-up, several weeks down the road, you might want to make a phone call. Just wanted to call and say hello. Or I'd love to get on your calendar. I'd love to find an opportunity for us to meet. Now, if you're going to ask someone to meet, several things. Be respectful of their time. If they say they can give you an hour, make sure it's an hour. If you're going to go there, don't just go to meet with someone just to meet with them. Go there with an agenda. Go there to ask questions and get more insight, or go there to make an ask, but have a purpose for the meeting. To meet just to meet, and then we talk about nothing, isn't going to help you in the long run. Okay? Certainly lunches or breakfast or coffee are all great things. And if you're trying to get with someone that you've been trying to connect with for some time, be flexible in when and how you can meet. Because they may come back and say, I have about 30 minutes at 3:30 on Wednesday afternoon. Can we do coffee? Absolutely, we can do coffee. And be mindful that you have 30 minutes. And if you are, for whatever reason, going over the 30 minutes, I always use a technique of asking for permission. So I would stop my clock and say, it's about 5 minutes before we end. I still have some more. Do you mind if we go 10 minutes past our allotted time? Or do you mind if we reschedule to finish our conversation? And let that person tell you it's okay. I can give you 10 more minutes. Because if you run my time over, for 30, 40, 50 minutes without my permission. The next time you try to get on my calendar, you won't. And many senior executives operate that way. So be respectful of someone's time. Understand why you're going to meet with them. Understand what you're asking with them. Don't want to just spend an hour or two just to spend an hour or two. Be focused. If you can give someone back some time, they will love you forever, and they'll make sure the next time you get on their calendar that you want to get on the calendar, they will. I remember many years ago we had a board member, a senior executive at one of the telephone companies, and my boss was having a hard time getting on his calendar, but he would always schedule me on his calendar. So my boss, one day we were just joking around, and my boss said, how come Ivo always gets in your calendar and I have a hard time getting in your calendar? He said, because when Ivo says he wants a half an hour, he takes a half an hour. When you say you want a half an hour, you take an hour. Because I'm like, you give me a half an hour, I'm going to respect your time, we're going to get it done in a half an hour, I'm going to move on. So respect people's time, okay? If you said you're going to do something, I will follow up with you, I'll send you my resume, I'll connect you with someone. Whatever you commit to doing, do it. That is all part of your integrity. That is all part of how people view you, what they think of you. So make sure that you follow up and do what you say you're going to do. Be keen. Don't be overeager, and don't be a pest. So if you left me a message today, don't call me back in an hour and say I left you a message, or call me back 3 times the rest of the day. Keep in mind, people are busy. Now, if you don't hear from them in a couple of days, you can follow up saying, just wanted to make sure that you got my email and connect, and be deliberate about that. One of the techniques that I use is, after I send an email and maybe a follow-up email, if I haven't heard back, I may make a phone call. And that phone call may happen during business hours. Or if I've left a message on the phone and I didn't get back to them, I may try them early morning. If they typically start at 8, I may try the office phone at 7:30, because they may be in their work and I pick up the phone. Or if the office closes at 5, I may try the office at 5:30 or 6, and they may pick up. Okay? If I've left one message, I'm not going to leave 3 or 4 messages. If I call back and I get the voicemail again, I'm not going to leave a second or third message right away. So use those techniques in terms of trying to connect with individuals. This one is big, because I've seen 2 people in the last 2 or 3 weeks make this mistake. If someone introduces you to someone else, be sure to follow up with that person and let the person who referred you know how it went and know that you connected. Okay? So as a matter of fact, I'm going to do some coaching today with one of my former staff people. I was a reference for her for a job a couple weeks ago. I knew she was getting the job offer. She got the job offer. I found out from 2 different sources she got the job and accepted the job, and I have yet to hear from her that she got the job. Now, I knew once I spoke to the hiring manager she had the job, because that person, when we talk about networks, when we started talking, that person and I were connected many years ago and were in each other's LinkedIn pages. And we knew each other from our professional world, and we've had similar roles and responsibilities. So when we really talked about what he needed and what this person did for me, it was such a fit. He was like, great, I'm making an offer tomorrow. So I knew she was getting the job offer. Okay? So again, and part of my job is to also coach individuals that I know around these things. So keep in mind that you want to make sure if someone refers you, that you keep them informed and in the loop as you connect with individuals. Now, if you meet someone through a mutual contact, don't try to go around that person to meet with that individual. Keep them in the loop so they know that you're trying to connect. So recently, we had an event with Eric Holder, the former Attorney General, and we had a student who engaged with him, and the student took it upon himself to send Mr. Holder a message beyond that about, I want to meet with you. And the first thing he did was send us a note saying, who is this? Now we could have made it easier by saying, hey, so-and-so wants to meet with you, do you have time? So always keep in mind, people will always go back to their source to check people out before they respond. So don't try to circumvent someone. Make sure that you keep the person who's referring you, or if you met someone through someone else, make sure you keep them informed. You never know how these things play out. Quick story about a young man that worked at a restaurant. As Jody said, I managed a restaurant at one point. And this young man, and I also consult with several restaurants, this young man worked at one restaurant as a bartender, applied for a sister restaurant to the one that I was a GM for, and the owner called me immediately. I noticed this guy said he worked here. I know you consult there. Is he good or is he not? And that was the only question she asked. Is he good or is he not? And now the young man had no clue that I got that phone call until after he got the job. And he came to me and said, oh, guess what? I got a job there. I said, I know. He's like, well, how do you know? I said, well, before you got that job, I got a phone call. So you never know how people are going to connect. You never know if someone knows someone within your network. And if you use LinkedIn appropriately, oftentimes you can see the connections. And some of us, like Jody, have a wealth of individuals in our network, so there's always a connection to someone. And we can always get inside information about someone before we connect with them. So keep that in mind. And also, if someone helps you, remember to thank them. Okay? Networking mistakes. Name dropping without knowing how a contact feels about that person. And name dropping, by name dropping, I mean to impress. You know, say, yes, you know, I know so-and-so and I was with them. No. If someone's name comes up or they mention that they're associated with X and you know someone there, great. Oh, great, you're at, you know, the Urban League. Great. Do you know Robin Ince there? Because we're friends. That's okay. But don't name drop just to name drop sake, okay? Talking bad about your former employer. Again, you never know who's connected to whom. You never know that relationship. And no matter how bad things were or are with your current and or former employer, you never want to badmouth them, because the first thing that's going to go through someone's mind is, what are they going to say about us if it doesn't work out? Or is this their behavior? Is this the kind of behavior that we want within our organization? So you want to make sure you're mindful of that. Don't ask personal questions or questions about money and salary. Not appreciating or respecting someone's time, we talked about that. Not following up and following through as promised. Keep in mind, the only thing we have when we network is our word. And if we say we're going to do X, then we should do X. And lastly, I will leave you with this. And I try to use this because I tell people all the time, when networking or connecting with people, attitude is key. So if you're in the wrong frame of mind or you don't have the right attitude, people can see through that. I'll never forget, I had a young lady meet with a friend of mine, unbeknownst, she didn't know that I knew, to talk about a job prospect. And my friend came back and said, oh my God, that is just, her energy is just so negative. And people can sense these things. So I'll leave you with this. And I use this throughout my life, so I think it's so powerful. But pay attention to your thoughts. For your thoughts become your words become your actions become your character, and your character determines your destiny. So in other words, think positive, speak positive, act positive, be positive, and being positive will help you in the long run. Attitude, while it's a little thing, it goes a long way, and people will want to help you if they think you have the right attitude, if they feel the positive energy. So if there are things that are going on in your life that's giving you some negative energy, put it in perspective. Think of those who are worse off. Think about the fact that, okay, what lesson should I learn from this? But I need to project the right energy, the right attitude when I'm networking, when I'm engaged with people. And again, you never know when you meet anyone on the street, wherever, how they can help you and or you can help them. So every interaction is an opportunity to network. Thank you. Jody?
Wow. See, every time I think I know something about networking, I'm still taking some more tips and writing down some notes. I hope everyone else did. We have a lot of questions. One that continues to come up and is always a challenge. It doesn't matter who you are. It's even you have this challenge. How do you come up with, and if you have a few good examples, Ivo, for what to offer someone when you're networking, knowing that what you said earlier, networking is about kind of more of what you give than what you get in the beginning. And when the playing field's a little uneven and you believe the other person, you know, is a little bit more powerful, maybe you're a VP and they're in the C-suite, what can you offer them? How do you make that a genuine connection?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. And oftentimes it's not about, like I was saying, oh, I can offer you X. Sometimes it is the simple question of, is there anything I can do to assist you? Is there anything I can offer you? Or, you know, in your note, if there's anything I can ever do for you, please don't hesitate to let me know. That is saying to the individual that there's a willingness to connect. It might be simply, you know, and I get this all the time, you know, we've been really trying to hire some more diverse individuals, and we're having a hard time. Here's a challenge we're having, and I may say, well, you know what? I know someone who is actually in the diverse recruiting space. Let me connect you. Maybe you can talk to them and see what they have to offer. Or it could be if you're really just kind of engaging in a social conversation, and the person says, you know, I live in so-and-so area. I've been really trying to find a great restaurant that serves X. It could be as simple as, you know what, I can actually connect you with someone in this restaurant. I go to this restaurant all the time. I know the manager there. Let me make the introduction. They have great food. I'll be happy to do it. It could be that simple. So don't think that offering something has to be about a level in an organization. It can literally be anything. It can be anything, quite frankly. Okay?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there's always a lot of pressure where you think like people believe that you have to offer something so amazing and out of this world, and sometimes it is the simple things. And maybe you even have kids in the same school, or you have friends who went to the same institution, or, you know, find something simple and just find something that's common. The other thing that tends to come up, and you mentioned it, you didn't get to that point, but you mentioned how quite often you end up with quite a few cards, and other people do as well. And often we all don't follow through. You know, people want to know what's the threshold of timing of how long is a card good for, just like how long can something, you know, stay in a freezer, you know, and still be good. At what point have you kind of lost that connection and need to reconnect, and when and or how can you revive even something like that?
Well, that's a very good question. So keep in mind, in this age, people are moving all the time from job to job. You know, great opportunities come along. So you want to make sure that even if it was great to meet you at X, you know, look forward to connecting in the future. That's it. And if it's someone that you really want to stay connected with, use LinkedIn to connect with people. Most people update their data on LinkedIn if they've moved to a new job and so forth, and that's an easy means. So I've been using LinkedIn lately where I really just spend the time. It has a great feature where if someone gets a promotion or it's their birthday or whatever, they've written an article, you get these little icons that say so-and-so is going on today with that person, and it gives you automatic. It just says, you can say, congratulations, hope all is well. So what I started doing, though, because I recognize that is just canned, and after a while you get enough of them, you realize, oh, they're all saying the same thing, I personalize a little bit, looking forward to connecting. So they know that I actually looked at it, that I sent it with intention, right? So use the tools that we have at our disposal. LinkedIn is a great tool to do that. If you get a card, and again, prioritize the cards that you want to follow up with. You know, the ones that you really want to connect with, it's a little more involved and detailed note. The ones that it's just great to kind of meet you, it's just that, great, looking forward to meeting you again. And what you will find is, after a while, you will meet some of the same people over and over. So that's the way you stay connected. Okay?
Yeah, I was going to agree that there's definitely an expiration time to connect from where you connected. I would say I go back 3 months. But if you are, at least as Ivo has been telling you, staying in communication with the person and following their career, or if they write or anything else, you always have a reason to reach out and reconnect, and you don't have to bring it back to the 3 months ago when you first met them. You bring it to something that's fresher.
Absolutely. Jody, really quick. Sure. And keep in mind, sometimes it is as simple as, and people do this to me and I do it to them, it's as simple as if you're on social media together somewhere, you know, just stopping by to say hello. It can be that simple. It really can be that simple. Okay? Go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, no, the other question is the folks that are not like us, that are not extroverts and not constantly talking and speaking and out in the scene, those shy want to be good networkers, those that we coach. What's some of your advice to them on how to manage their networking, still get out there, make these live connections, but to kind of step out a little bit more and make it work for them, and you can make shy work for you.
No, that's a very good question. So everyone is not energetic and out there and going, and good Lord knows I am, but everyone is not that in that space. But those who are a little more introverted, you've got to make the extra, or take the extra effort to really kind of extend yourself a little bit and put yourself in the situations. Now, you may go somewhere, you don't have to talk to 10 people. You can talk to 3. You can talk to 4. You can have a great conversation. It can be a low-key conversation with someone, but you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to connect with a few people. You've got to have a little more you've got to sometimes force yourself to do it, or find a master connector, someone who can help you to connect with individuals so it's less awkward than you meeting them by yourself. Many of us will engage more. So I know if someone comes to me and says, Jody Brockington told me to connect with you, I'll spend the time with that person because they have the stamp of Jody Brockington, So if you're that shy, find someone in your network who can help you connect, who can help to sell your story, who can help to make your case, who can help to make it easier for you to engage with individuals.
Yeah, and be clear that if I wanted Ivo to follow up with someone, I would be communicating with him as well. So it's not like you guys can quickly go use my name to get him to respond to you. He'll follow up with me if he hasn't heard about Joe Smith or Joanne, Jones, before communicating with you, making sure that it's a genuine connection. So
Absolutely.
Make sure that you're also not. It's one of the no-nos of networking. And the other thing I was going to say, if you're shyer or you feel that you're more of an introvert in networking, to really go with what Ivo said earlier about having a plan. If you're going to an event where there's a list of names of who's attending and you have a specific person that you want to meet, make a plan that's your goal. Your goal is to meet Mr. Smith, and if you meet 2 other people along the way, great. But you have a goal, and you do not have to stay for all 3 hours of a networking event or even any other event. You need to go get what you need and leave. So do not make it such a torturous, oh my God, I got to do this for hours. Make it a mission. Make a plan. It's not like you have to meet everyone in the room. You do not have to collect every card, as Ivo had said earlier as well in his presentation. Just have a plan. Make it simple, and sometimes bring a friend. Make it easier for yourself. The next question really is about how to balance and really what's the best way to stay in communication with people, because you had mentioned, people have said here, you've mentioned how, there's people who only reach out to you when they need something and don't really keep up with you. So it's kind of one-sided. So how do you keep a nice balance of communication? Because we all don't need people all the time in our network, but how do you keep them close enough where they don't feel used and they want to actually help you?
That's a very good question. So I talked about the simple method of sometimes it is just stopping by to say hello, or just an email. It's been a minute since we've connected. Wanted to make sure all is well. Hope all is well. It can be that simple. One of the things that I do to make sure that I stay on people's radar and they stay on mine, I deliberately identify a number of people whom I have not connected with in quite some time, and I make a phone call. I can't, and literally the conversation is an honest one. I've been saying for the last X amount of time that I need to connect with you, I need to call you, and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to stop what I'm doing right now, and I'm going to make the phone call. You will be surprised how many people respond very positively to that, right? That's simple. I've been thinking about it. I've been so busy, because we all understand everyone's busy. No matter what level you are, we all have things going on. So if you take the time to make the phone call, people appreciate and respect that. And you don't want a lengthy call. You just want, I'm just calling, and I've done this. I'm like, hey, Jody, how you doing? It's Ivo. It's been some time. You've been on my mind. I just called to say hello. Literally, that's all I call for. And oftentimes I get, oh, great to hear from you. What's going on? Tell me more about stuff. But my agenda really is, I really only call to say hello. And I let it play out any way it's going to play out. So, and what I do is I sort of bucket that, right? I know that there's a list of 50 people, let's say, I want to connect with. I just break it up. I do a couple a day, a couple every week. So I make it manageable. But I go back and just reconnect with people. So there's some that I connect with on social media. There's some that are in the phone call bucket. There's some that are in the, not LinkedIn, but maybe the Facebook bucket. So you kind of identify. Or there's some that I know if I go to X events, I will see them. So you kind of identify where people are and make sure that you're reconnecting along the way. Jody?
Yeah, no, this is a great question, and comes up from time to time. What do you do when you've tried everything to network with someone, it just doesn't appear that they want to play in the sandbox with you? When they don't want to really network.
Then you move on. It's that simple. If they don't really want to network, you move on. Because I believe everything happens for a reason. And when the time is right to network, if we try to force it, it's not going to work. Okay? So you got to sort of let it happen naturally. So case in point, I have someone that I know who's affiliated with the foundation that I've known for years in other spaces that really, no matter how much I tried to engage that person prior to, we just weren't connected that way, huh? And I just left it alone. I'm now in this space, and they're connected, and now we have a different connection because I'm now in a position to help them in a certain way. So sometimes you got to also watch out for that, right? People really connecting with you because they're trying to use you. And we all need help. We all want support, but you want to make sure that it's genuine. So my good thing was it wasn't working. Great to see you. How you doing? But then I wasn't trying to push anything else. And now we're in a different place because now I'm in a different scenario and our connectivity is different. And now they want to engage. So sometimes you have to walk away from it.
Yeah, no, and the other thing is if you are actually trying to connect and network with someone in a specific field or a specific area, just find someone else if that's a need of yours at the time, whether or not you're doing some informational interviews or you really need some more sprucing up on whatever skill that is in your industry. Whatever you're going to that person for, there's 10,000 other people just like him or her. So find someone else and, look in their network. Use LinkedIn once again to see who else they're networking with. You might find someone that you don't know. Often we try to look so far out, and the boy next door or the girl next door is someone who can really help you. So try to make that happen.
And that's where you ask your network for a referral. Do you know anyone who X? And oftentimes your network will help you find someone.
So, so what would you advise for some of these folks to do as a next step for contacting the next 5, 10 people that they're interested in networking with?
The first thing I'd advise is to prepare. Why you want to contact them? What is your objective? What are you trying to get out of this situation? Is it really just to say hello? Is it really that I'd like to get my resume? Is it really I'd like to sit down with you for 10 minutes, get some insight from you? What is your objective? Plan, right? Make sure that your elevator speech is ready. If you only have 5 minutes or 10 minutes to make that impression or to share what you need, make sure you are crisp. Make sure things are mapped out. Make sure you know and you've practiced what you're trying to get out of this interaction. And then I would say just make the call or send the email. Stop procrastinating with it and just make it. And be a little persistent, but don't be overbearing. Don't be, crazy. But when you make the call, be clear about why you want to meet with that person. Okay?
Well, yeah, no, exactly. Well, Ivo, I know that you have helped a lot of people. We got a lot of, great presentation. Love your presentation. They love the fact that you said to bring a wingman or a wing woman. The tips were well received, and you guys all, I want to make this public that, you will be able to listen in on this presentation on YouTube. We will send a link with your survey. And so you can also clearly reach out to Ivo or myself on LinkedIn with any other questions about networking and anything else you might have. But remember to remind us that you met us here today.
Yep.
We, as Ivo has said, know a lot of people. Networking is something just like anything else that you need to work on regularly. It's not a one-stop shop. It's constant. So whether or not you practice at home, you practice with your friends, and it's not always networking for the big things. Sometimes it's just to find a babysitter or a good acupuncturist or a great doctor. It's little things that your network knows. And so, Ivo, I just want to thank you because I know I picked the right person today to bring this message. We listened to about LinkedIn first. We talked about refreshing resume. This brings both of those parts together. And then next, on the 23rd, our next Digital Career Success Series is another mentor, quasi-FOJ, who I've looked up to for years, who has seen it all. He has interviewed everyone from the bottom of an organization to the very top, one-on-ones, group interviews, internationally known. He is up next with the game changer for your career success, which is interviewing. So now you've been able to leverage your network, you get an interview, and if you can't go in there and kill it and get the job or at least get an offer, all the stuff Ivo's talked about today, Lucy talked about last week, and that we talked about in the first week on LinkedIn, you have to bring them together to move forward in your career. So Ivo, I just want to thank you. I hope also you'll send some folks next week and maybe listen in yourself. Michael Heider is a game changer for sure. Also, like you, has worked across all sectors and now is at Korn Ferry. He does specifically diversity, recruitment, and hiring for large corporations and national nonprofits and everything in between. And if anyone on the line goes to Executive Leadership Council, he does a lot of their trainings too, ELC. So those of you trying to get into the C-suite, this is your man. So I look forward to seeing you guys back here on the 23rd. And I know that everyone's going to download your link to your presentation, Ivo. So thank you so much for sharing today, and great success in your new role. And we will be watching you.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time. I know Michael Heider. Michael Heider is amazing, so you will learn a lot from Michael Heider. And I've already started to get LinkedIn requests. Make sure you put in the LinkedIn request that you are on the webinar, so I kind of know, where it's coming from. Okay?
Fabulous. Thank you, guys. And on behalf of the National Urban League and the Jobs Network, have a great rest of your week and put these skills, new skills and tools to action to really move forward your career. And please upload your resume to the Urban League Jobs Network, because those folks who have jobs listed there are looking for folks just like you. So join us online on the 23rd, and please upload your resume. Have a great